So today I want to talk about something which recently happened in the Arc 7 web novel, so this video will contain spoilers. However, most people have already speculated about what happens after Subaru dies in the story. In fact, in Arc 4, the whole second trial where Subaru sees the world after he dies made many people speculate about there being parallel worlds which exist after the death of Subaru. Now, we do know that these trials in Arc 4 are simply generated by the Book of Wisdom that Echidna has, and they aren't true reality. During the events of Arc 7, Subaru gets separated from the main cast members and he gets swallowed in an explosion, but it turns out he's actually teleported elsewhere and he does in fact survive. However, the main cast members don't know this. So, as all of these characters are talking, they wonder whether or not Subaru is alive or dead, because nothing could have survived that explosion. However, Aldebaran states that Subaru is alive, and he says this with such conviction that other characters want to know why he believes Subaru is alive. And then Aldebaran drops the most random line ever, which is essentially potential lore dump. He states that Subaru is alive because the world hasn't been destroyed. And of course the other characters have no clue what he's talking about. So this seems to be really insane because it seems to imply that Aldebaran knows what happens when Subaru dies, and potentially 100% knows that Subaru has the power of return by death, and that if Subaru dies the world seemingly gets destroyed, and Aldebaran seems to have memories of it. Now, I can sort of take this information and come up with two potential theories. This first interpretation actually comes from the web novel from Arc 3, and it was actually removed from the light novel. In one loop in the web novel, Subaru gets killed off. However, what happens to his corpse is that he becomes reanimated, and essentially the main cast members which are present has to fight off Subaru's corpse, which seems to be taken over by the Witch of Envy. Now, this could be a potential thing which does happen after Subaru dies, but Tappei did cut this from the web novel, and of course that's the reason why it doesn't appear in the light novel, because it was in the web novel, he sort of cut it out and it's not in the light novel. So maybe this is what Al's referring to. Maybe when Subaru dies, Satella gets unleashed and she destroys the world, which eventually causes it to reset. Again, I'm not too sure, but take this possibility with a grain of salt, but this could be one interpretation for the world being destroyed after Subaru's death. The second interpretation could be that Al's territory, so Al, as we know, has an authority predicted to be the authority of Pride. Now, we do know that Al's authority seems to have priority over return by death, and we know this due to many different factors. I've made a video on it if you want to see more information on it, namely my Arc 7 death loop video explained, but Al's authority bypasses return by death. So there's a possibility that the reason why Al is aware that the world is destroyed when Subaru dies is because of his actual authority himself. Because when Aldebaran is in his territory, he bypasses return by death. So it could be that Subaru will die, Aldebaran is in his territory, so even though the world does revert, Aldebaran keeps his memories of the incident, and the world reverts, but Aldebaran is unaffected. Now, that is again just a theory on why Aldebaran knows that the world gets destroyed. Maybe Al's definition of the world being destroyed isn't necessarily that, like Satella comes out and actually destroys the world, but just the world at that moment no longer exists because it gets reverted back to a previous point. It's just that Subaru returns by death, and Aldebaran, who's inside his territory, is unaffected. And maybe he does revert, but because he was in his territory at that point in time, his memories will stay intact. Again, I can't really explain exactly why he's unaffected, but Aldebaran is 100%, you know, certain that Subaru is alive because he hasn't witnessed the world being destroyed. I would like to know what your interpretation of the line is, because I've given mine. I have no real idea what Aldebaran knows as a character. He does seem to know that Subaru has a power. He does have return by death. But let me know what you think, because I'm confused and I haven't really seen anyone talk about this situation. But let me know what you think down below. See you next time.